The gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs, for 5 minutes for questioning.
Sorry, brother. I had no part of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I found it very interesting. This has been an interesting hearing. I thought it was intriguing to actually hear one of my colleagues across the aisle express their dismay at the federal government interfering with local and state government. That's like the first time I've ever heard a Democrat say that. It was awesome. But what makes this unique? Article 1, Section 8. That's what makes it unique. Exclusive legislation authority belongs to the Congress, but we can delegate it. Somebody cited a Supreme Court case. They kind of misinterpreted a little bit. They want to say that it's kind of hands-off. It's not hands-off. We can delegate it, and we've delegated a lot of authority to the District of Columbia. But I want to just tell you how dangerous this place is. A good friend of mine, just a couple months ago, walking down just right over here, just off the Capitol, over by where a lot of us go eat, gets mugged. He was a little bit crazy. He literally chased the guy down to get his wallet back. I would not recommend that, but he did. But then I got this from a former coworker of mine. Says, in case you need, this is just less than a month ago, just a few weeks ago. In case you need another example of D.C. crime, I was part of a potential carjacking. I was driving, team jumped out, and as she goes on and explains what's happening, knife comes out. They're banging on her windows trying to get her to open the car. Where did it happen? 2 blocks from the Senate, right by her office. Happened over lunchtime in broad daylight. Oh, there's no crime crisis here, not in this city. Mr. Lee, has your office analyzed the impact of recent business departures or business closures on the city's tax revenues?
Not specifically. Our responsibility is to forecast revenues, and so we look at the macroeconomic and regional economic conditions that lead to our revenue.
And one of those conditions is that the population of D.C. has fallen by 2.6% since 2020.
But it has rebounded. The last census shows that there are the population is beginning to increase. And our understanding...
So what's your net? I mean, do you have businesses been closing?
We're still down.
You're still down. Is it going to go down or up?
We're estimating very slow growth moving forward to reflect past history.
Any of that due to crime, or how do you attribute it? Is it just, how do you attribute to closures and people having left?
Many major cities in the country saw a population decline as a result of the pandemic and the new working from home labor market.
And that's what Mayor Bowser has said. One of her problems is that the feds have continued with a teleworking program that has impacted your economy because people aren't coming in. Do you agree with her assessment?
Yes.
So over that same time period from 2020, direct appropriations to the District of Columbia have increased by almost $90 million, which does not include funding that D.C. receives through formula or competitive grant programs at federal agencies. Can you discuss for us generally how the district utilizes that federal funding?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which federal funding.
The $90 million that it has grown by in the last 2 years.
If I could interrupt.
You cannot interrupt. This is a question for Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee?
What's complicated in understanding federal funding is the COVID relief resources that every jurisdiction has received. So,
how about you? How about the D.C. jurisdiction?
Right.
If you can't answer, just say I can't answer.
I cannot answer that specifically.
Fair enough. I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you then if you would please, maybe we can get in contact and get some more specific, and you can give me that information, then I'd be happy to share it with the rest of the committee.
Congressman, I can give some information if you want me to answer.
Why don't you get with Mr. Lee and we'll get together. I've got other questions I want to ask.
It's up to you, but
Geez.
Our discretionary federal funding is $100 million, which is 0.08% of our, excuse me,
So
0.8
no,
of the budget.
that's beautiful. Okay, I get it. You got your story, you got your narrative you want to get out. I really did want to ask about additional crime statistics, but you've taken my time. Way to filibuster. We had already arranged to get that information offline.
I just thought it was being.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when we don't have order and decorum in here, and you just think you can speak and say whatever. It's rude. It's rude.
Okay, the gentleman's time is long since due.
The gentleman's time has expired.